Hi everyone, we're going to graph these three functions with tables, just using tables. And you can do this on any test you have. When you see something like this and you don't know what it is, just plot a table out and plug it in. Just notice that these two are different. I know the 3 and 2 are different, but this is linear. It's just 3x. And this one is 2 to the x power. And this one has a negative exponent. So these two are exponential, and these three aren't. These two are exponential, and this one is linear. All right, so for the first one, I'm just going to do a table, and a good choices to have for the domain are, let's see, I'll put 0 here, and then put 1, 2, and then I'll work backwards, -1, -2. So I'm starting with small to greatest. Now I'm just picking points that make it easier to graph. So I'm going to plug in, let's see, -2. So 3 times -2, 3 times -2, that's going to be -6. And then plug in -1, 3 times -1 is -3. I'm making mistakes. Okay, 3 times 0 is just 0. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 3 is 6. And just plot them. So I have 0, 1 goes to 3, 1, 2, 3. And they don't usually say that. Usually say 1, f of 1 maps to 3. All right, and 2 maps to 6, so 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that's the slope. We're going up 3 over 1, up 3 over 1. And then do this one. -1 goes to -3. And -2 maps to -6. 1, 2, 3, so right here. All right, and then just try to draw a straight line because you know it's linear. And that's not very straight, but it's the best I can do on this thing. And for example, these are just ordered pairs. -2, -6, -1, -3, 0, 0, 1, 3, and 2, 6. And there's your line. Now let's go to the next medium one. This is a little harder, but I'm going to use the same table. So I'm going to use this. My domain values, my y. Now my domain values are independent. I get to pick anything I want. So I'm going to stick with what I did last time. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Now, you have to know your exponent rules. I'm going to start with 2 to the 0. I'm going to do these two last. So 2 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So that's just going to be 1. If it was 3 to the 0, it would be 1. 4 to the 0 is 1. Now when I plug in 1, 2 to the first power is just 2. That means 1, 2. So that's 2. And then 2 squared equals 4. All right. Now for the -1 part. So 2 to the -1, a to the -n equals 1 over a to the n. So to get rid of the negative exponent, we're just going to write that as 1 over 2. And 2 to the -2 is going to be 1 over 2 squared. So I got rid of the negative, but these are fractions. This equals 1/4. Now let's just plot let me write them down. So 2 to the -1 is -1/2. And 2 to the -2 is 1/4. Sorry about that. I didn't leave enough room. So we have 1/4 and 1/2. Now, -2 goes to 1/4. -1 maps to 1/2, it's a little bigger. 0 goes to 1. Notice that's your y-intercept, by the way. When x was 0, y was 1. That's how the x-intercept is when y-intercept is when x is 0. Okay, 1 goes to 2. and 2 goes to 4. 2, 3, 4. Now, I don't know if that's enough for you. If you can figure this out here, this is never going to cross the y. We have a horizontal asymptote here. So it's not going to cross right here. So our horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. I could put in, let's do 2 to the negative 4. That would be 1 over 2 to the 4th, which is 1 over 16. So if I go to negative 4, it's just going to be really close. But it's never going to be below, this is never going to be negative number. And remember, when you're using a table, if you still don't feel like you get the way the graph looks, do another one. So we did 1 and 2. Let's try 3. 2 cubed is 8. So you go all the way up here to 8, and that gives you more. You'll never miss on a test if you just plug in the points. Plug in as many as you can until you feel comfortable. All right? Domain is all real numbers. We can plug anything in here. The range is y is bigger than 0, because it'll never touch 0. So the range is y is bigger than 0. All right, the next one is this one. Now, what you want to do with this one, so it's not so confusing, is just to rewrite this. We know this is 3, and I can say negative 1 times x. All right, so what I can do, let's put a little parentheses here because of my product rule. You really have to know your exponents. So 3 to the negative 1 is just 1/3. Remember from the previous slide. And then we have our x. So just remember that little trick. And now let's do a table. Our x values and our y. And I'm going to do negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. So if I put in 0, I'll start with that one. If you plug in 0, you get 1/3 to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So that's 0 goes to 1. Now if I plug in 1, I get 3 1/3 to the first power, which is 1/3. And if I plug in 2, I get 1/9. 1 squared is 1, so that would be 1/9. You just square both numerator and denominator. It gets closer and closer. Again, it's not going to cross, so that's this side. Now, so we had 1 goes to 1/3, 2 goes to 1/9, 3 would go to 1 over 27. It will never go below this line here. So let's try the negative 1. So if we have negative 1, we have 1/3 to the negative 1. So negative 1, remember, we just means you're going to flip it. So what I'm going to do is get out that negative and just flip it as 3 over 1 and take away the negative. You just flip it. So 3 to the first power is, so if we have negative 1 here, then that's just going to go to 3. So 1, 2, 3. And let's try negative 2. So you have negative 2. So I'll put a negative 2 here. So what you do is just switch this around and take away the negative. So put 3 over 1. And then put the 2. So that's going to be 9 over 1, which is just 9. So negative 2 goes to 9, which is way up here. And then it just graphs like this and goes this way. Okay? And just goes, it gets closer and closer to this y equals 0 horizontal asymptote. All right. Same thing, domain is all real numbers because we can put any numbers we want here. This was 9. And the range will never touch the 0 here, so y has to be greater than 0. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.